Okay, then.
All right. All right, I think we can start now because, yeah, so we'll be touching on constitutional rights and responsibilities. Ooh. Do you guys know what human rights are?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what are human rights? Don't look
Human
at the
rights,
screen.
ma'am.
Human rights are like
Rules to respect.
people choose to respect you and for people to follow the rights of the law.
Okay. All right. So human rights
And also
are
respect.
okay. They are moral principles or norms for certain standards of human behavior and are regularly protected in municipal and international law. So human rights are protected by local and when they say municipal, they mainly mean local and international laws. So those are just the principles that we follow, like it's standards that we have to follow as human beings. Those are human rights. And the Bill of Rights is a cornerstone of democracy in South Africa. So Bill of Rights is an international thing. It's not just a South African thing. It's a worldwide thing. So the Bill of Rights is a cornerstone of democracy in South Africa. It enshrines the rights of all people in the country and affirms the democratic values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. So it affirms the value of human dignity because some people think that certain people they actually treat certain people differently because they're different. You find that someone who is either mentally challenged or is differently abled physically, they don't treat them with dignity. However, you have to treat everyone with dignity because it's part of the constitution and it's sort of their rights. So equality as well, you find that because someone thinks because they belong to a certain ethnic group, then they think they are better and they're not equal to other people. Like during apartheid, um, white people there was no equality, so white people thought they were superior to black people. So now we don't have that anymore, so we are all equal. And freedom as well, we have freedom to a whole lot of things. Like one example I can give you is freedom of movement. So in South Africa we have a right to move around South Africa. I have a right to say, okay, I want to relocate to Cape Town, or I want to relocate to Polokwane, or I want to relocate to Pretoria. It's my it's freedom of movement and it's within my rights. However, when it comes to these laws and rights and all that, they cannot be taken away, but they can be restricted. One example I can give you guys of when we say restricted, during COVID, we locked down, our freedom of movement was restricted. We were not allowed to move around, but it was not taken away. We were allowed to move around maybe in our towns and whatnot, but just deciding that, oh, I'm going to move to wherever, I'm going to go to Joburg today, it was restricted. And they can only be restricted, our rights and all that, they can only be restricted if it's a, a national emergency. So with during COVID, during the lockdown, level 5, it was a national emergency. That's why it was restricted. What is Constitution of South Africa? The Constitution of South Africa is the supreme law of the Republic of South Africa. It provides the legal foundation for the existence of the Republic. It sets out the rights and duties of its citizens and defines the structure of the government. So, the supreme meaning the higher law of South Africa. That's what the Constitution of South Africa is. So it provides us with a legal foundation for the existence of the republic. So because now we are in a democracy, the Constitution provides us with the foundation, the legal foundation of the democracy we actually have. Human rights are stipulated in the South African Constitution. The South African Constitution was drawn up by the negotiating parties of the government. The intention of the Constitution, so this was drawn up by, apologies, guys. It was drawn up by negotiating parties of the government. So not one person decides on say a law or the constitution. So the president cannot just come and say, "Hey, I have a new law. Here's a new law." No, there has to be negotiations first, and people have to state before it can actually be drawn and say, "Okay, this is now a law. This is what it protects, and this is what it states." So there has to be negotiating parties first. Um, the intention of the constitution was to create a South African society based on democratic values, social justice, and basic moral human rights. So during apartheid, we didn't actually have democratic values, we didn't have social justice, we also didn't have basic normal moral human rights. Black people were looked down upon, they were treated inhumane and all that. So the constitution was created so that things can be better, so that basic human rights can just be there, people can be treated like human beings, um, even with social justice, because certain people were not allowed to work in certain areas because of this the color of their skin and all that. So that does not exist anymore. um, all people have the same human rights, regardless either of their race, sex, age, class, language, beliefs, cultural or religion, or how much money or education they have. So as I said, it doesn't matter um, whether you're pink, you're orange, whether you're poor or wealthy. We all have the same basic human rights. So it doesn't mean that if someone is wealthier than the next person, then the one who's wealthier has more rights. No, that's not how it works. Um, or just because someone is from a different ethnic group, or someone believes are different from the next person, no, we are all equal. Doesn't matter, those things don't really matter. Chapter 2 of the South African Constitution contains the Bill of Human Rights. This bill helps to protect people from being mistreated by other people, businesses, and the government. So, the chapter 2 of the Constitution, that's where you will find the Bill of Human Rights. It's under chapter 2 of the South African Constitution. So the bill also helps to protect people from being mistreated by other people, so that people cannot should be treated like human beings. So because in the World War II people were treated inhumane, so that's actually where it all started. It started in, I think, 1942. That's where everything started, and it was created by the United Nations because they didn't want um what happened during World War II to happen again. So that's where it originates. Summary of the South African Bill of Rights. There are rights that relate to all the different parts of our lives, such as the right to equality. Everyone is treated and protected equally. Human dignity, respect, and protection of a person's pride and self respect, life, murder and homicide punishable but not by death. So in South Africa, we actually don't have the death penalty. We, if someone kills someone, we cannot say, "Ah, you're also going to die," because that person in the constitution, they have a right to live. So the only thing that they can do is be punished and some of their rights be restricted. If you kill someone, say you go to jail now, your right to choice or freedom and movement and all that, it's they become restricted. freedom and security, freedom from violence and abuse. We have a right to be protected. That's why the South African police services is free to get protection from them and all that. So that's another thing. And then no forced labor. Slavery is not allowed. So you just like working, you have to get paid when you work, even if you're better. And now I um let's say I do your nails and then you do my makeup, that's some sort of payment. So what I mean by no payment, I mean non-payment at all. We don't exchange services, we don't do anything, you don't pay me. That's not allowed. That's seen as slavery, like you're working for free. And then no one can force you to do labor that you don't want as well. So it's not allowed it's written there in the constitution. And then privacy, protection from others reading your letters, telephones being taped, conf- confiscation of property, or search without a court order. So the police cannot just come to your house and demand to search your house without um what's this word, a search warrant from from court. So they're not allowed to do that from a judge. So they have to have a search warrant first. Even when you're walking in the streets, the police cannot just come to you and decide that they want to search you without any questions. You have to ask them, why are you searching me? What happened? They're not allowed to just start frisking you for no particular reason. So, so it means they will be violating your body because that's privacy to your body. So knowing your rights is actually very important because when you know your rights, you are actually able to say, "Hey, you're violating my right. You cannot do that." And then human rights description, democracy. We strive towards a sovereign democratic South Africa. The right to vote for all citizens over 18. Everyone who's over the age of 18 has the right to vote in South Africa. A national voters' roll. Elections held regularly. A multi-party government. So this means a multi-party meaning a whole lot of different parties where you can choose which one you want to vote for. So we're supposed to have that. Um, Elections are supposed to be held regularly, so a person cannot just be in power, quote unquote, like forever. So they have to be regular elections to be held. And then social rights and equality. We strive towards a free and secure country, freedom of expression. So we have the right to actually express ourselves however we want, sufficient housing, staying in a proper house. However, it's not the government's responsibility to make sure that you have housing. So them building RDPs for people, it's it's in a way just them being nice. They if they don't want to do that, it's not their responsibility to actually do that. Health services. That's why in South Africa we actually have access to free medical care. So it's a good thing because you can just go to the clinic even when you're broke or you don't have money, and you can see a doctor for free. And then basic schooling, there are free schools, and every child has to go through basic schooling. If a child does not attend any type of school, the parents can actually be prosecuted and maybe fined or maybe be go to jail because they are violating the child's basic right. And then personal safety, we have a right to feel safe.
Ma'am, but what if the child's homeless?
What is the child's what?
What if the child is homeless? How will their
Then they
parents
get
pay
then
for
they get
school?
then they get sent to an orphanage.
Yes, you're correct. They actually get sent to shelters and orphanages. That's why sometimes it's just that our South African police are not really doing a proper job. But according to the law, they're supposed to take those kids and take them to. We have orphanages, we have place of safety, we have shelters. So they're supposed to take them there and then make sure that they go to school. So every child has to go to school between the ages, not like the ages, between grade R or grade 1 up until grade 9. After grade 9, that's when you decide whether you want to go to do maybe FET college or you want to go to work. But before then, you actually have to go to school. Even homeless kids. And then equality. We strive towards a country where everyone is equal before the law.
Excuse me, man.
Mm-hmm.
So when homeless kids get sent to the orphanage, is the school fees free, or do you have to pay money for it?
For orphanage.
I mean, for the school.
It's free. South African education is free. Um, it's just that those ones that you pay, they are private schools, but South African public schools are free.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. Schools in your loctions and the villages, they don't pay, so it's they
Man,
have
but
to.
what about a normal public school that's like in the city? You still have to pay for school fees.
Yeah, it's in the city. It's in town. Those in town, I know that they have to pay even if it's a public school. But those who go to schools in Lokshin or in the villages, they don't pay. So those kids will be sent to schools where they don't have to pay anything because now, if you're staying in a shelter, the government is taking care of you. So how are you going to pay for school fees if you can't even take care of yourself? You can't take care of your other needs. So they will have to be sent to public schools where they don't have to pay. Do you have more questions?
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we can continue. We strive towards a country where everyone is equal before the law. All citizens must be given equal opportunities in every spheres. Equal opportunities. That's why um, there's free education, basic education, and that's why we have things like NSFAS, so that those people who cannot afford to go to school, they can actually get like going to university, they can actually get funding from
Yeah.
NSFAS and go to university. Also, even when you go to court, everyone is equal. So you're told your rights and all that. So on all spheres of you are equal, and then we must all be able to live together and communicate as equals. So there shouldn't be a superior because maybe you have more money, or maybe because you are white, or maybe you're colored, or you're Indian, or you're black, and you think you're superior. No, we are all equal, even in the eyes of the law. And then non racism and non sexism. We strive towards a country where previous racism and gender discrimination will be eradicated systematically. So sexism is like sexism is gender discrimination. So they used to discriminate against women just for being women. So each citizen must be given the opportunity to realize his or her full potential, regardless of race or gender. So back then, women were not really allowed to work, they would stay home. Black people were just allowed to work in the fields, they work, white people on farms and all those. So they were not really allowed to go to school and further their education and all that. So now we don't have that. Now you can just wake up and decide, okay, I want to be a doctor. Or you can wake up and say, I want to be an astronaut, and then you work towards that. So you won't be turned down because maybe you're black or maybe because you're a woman. It does not work like that anymore. And then the fifth one is Ubuntu, human dignity. We acknowledge the need for. Please mute yourself, whoever's speaking. Um, we acknowledge the need for one understanding in contrast to reprisal to redress, not revenge, and then Ubuntu, not indignity. So Ubuntu is human dignity. Everyone has a right to that, or we should treat people as equal. We should treat them with dignity. And Then the sixth one is an open community. We strive towards a country with a transparent constitution and judiciary, a system of government that reflects the will of the people, freedom of opinion, the press, and religion. So you have the right to choose whatever religion you want, freedom to get information, um, say freedom of opinion and speech. However, you also have a responsibility not to hurt people with the things you say. So social media now, because people think, oh, we have rights, we can say whatever we want, you find that they are bullying other people, forgetting that when you're bullying, you're also stepping on the other person's right as well. And then accountability and responsibility. We strive towards a country where each citizen accepts responsibility for his or her own actions. Um, Number one, organizations and councils accept responsibility for the groups under their management. And the second one is basic responsible and socially acceptable behavior is maintained. So, what the the elected parties or whoever promises us during elections, oh, I'm going to give you free housing, I'm going to give you free education, those type of things. They have a responsibility to actually deliver. So service delivery, that's why
Ma'am, but it never happens. If they when
I
they say that they're gonna give houses and stuff to people, it never happens.
I know. However, they tried to make us quiet by, let's say they're like, we are going to give 100 people housing, and then they give 10 people housing. So it's like, yeah, I delivered, but I delivered to the 10%. So that's what they do. However, it's their responsibility to actually be accountable. That's why when you find things like there's no water or clean water, um service delivery to certain areas. That's why you find people organize marches, and you find that you hear, oh, there's a strike because there's no electricity. They haven't had electricity for a week, or they haven't had water or clean water for 20 days. So that's why people do that, because they know that those people are violating their rights. They're supposed to be responsible and accountable for what they say they're going to deliver. I know they don't do that, but they're supposed to. And then rule of law. As a state, South Africa is founded on the constitution as the highest authority, and the rule of law is supreme. All citizens must respect accepted codes of conduct and discipline and obey laws, rules, and regulations in every spheres of civil life. That's why during COVID, oh, you must wear your masks. Those were the rules and the laws that were and regulations that were given to us, that were put in place to quote unquote protect us, so that we don't get whatever COVID. So
But
we were supposed to follow, wear our masks, sanitize, keep
but ma'am,
distance.
South Africa doesn't listen at all, at all.
Yes, South Africans. It's not everyone who did not listen. Some people were compliant. Some,
Ma'am,
uh
it
huh.
seems like it seems like with Corona, ma'am, nobody worries about it, ma'am.
Yeah, they just act like
And
they're not
South
gonna get
because
infected,
if
that
it,
they don't wear
yeah,
It's
masks, they
normal.
don't sanitize,
yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
they don't
they
even
don't
stay at home in
sanitize,
their
they're not
houses.
social distance anymore.
Yeah, now people don't. But in the beginning, certain people were complying. They would wear their masks. They would sanitize. But as time went on, because we are not used to wearing masks, it became a bit difficult for us South Africans. Um, I know a few people who are in China, and this other Chinese person actually said she found it very weird that most people in different countries are complaining about wearing masks, because in that country, even just having simple flu, like now I'm coughing, you are supposed to just wear a mask so that you can protect other people. So for us, because we were never taught that, we don't know that, we are so used to doing it our own way. I'd have flu and I just sneeze without even covering my mouth because I don't care about the next person.
And
So
ma'am,
it
people
became
judge
difficult for
you
people
when
to
you cough.
comply.
Ma'am, it's big, but in other countries, once there was one case, like in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
when there was one case of COVID, then they shut down all the borders and everything. But yeah, they took so long. Once there were hundreds of cases, then they only started locking borders and stuff.
Because our economy could not handle it. It was, they were looking at,
But
remember, South Africa is still a developing country and we have so much poverty, we have so much unemployment. So people who
but
rely
if
on,
they But ma'am, if they did close the borders at the time, then there wouldn't be any COVID cases here, because then all the COVID cases would have been gone. So then
that's
the country wouldn't have had so many unemployed people.
that's what we think. However, we don't know at that time. They were like, okay, let's close the border because now we have, let's say we have 10 cases. Let's close the borders. How many people did those people touch before knowing, or yes, touch or get in contact with before knowing that they actually had COVID? That's how it actually spread. So they were just also looking at how the economy is. Um, it was difficult for them to decide to close, I think. I'm not sure. I'm just assuming because of how the economy, the South African economy is. Our economy before COVID was just bad, and now it's worse.
It was man-made. This virus was man-made. It was. It was. I don't think that China tried to lock us up, or instead tried to, maybe China tried to make us stay home, not do anything, and now they decided to create that virus. It's a man-made virus. It's
Yeah, but
not.
that's not
Ma'am, but people
necessarily.
also say that that China made the virus because they were overpopulated.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, but it's not necessarily their fault. It could even come from animals or spread over there. So
Yeah, we can't really just assume. Those are theories. And remember, with science, we have to have something that backs it up. Now you say it's man-made. Yeah, we can say, yeah, it's man-made, but where's the proof? We can't really speak about it unless there's proof. Yeah, everyone has their own theory. A lot of people have their own theory. People in the beginning, they used to think that it's it's 5G. It was a lot. In the beginning, it was just a lot. And then now we are going to move on to another right, is respect. You guys, your time is up. Respect. We strive towards a community where every citizen will respect and consider him or herself and his or her neighbors. So you have to respect other people and their rights. You might say, you might find that you have a party, you're loud. Yeah, it's my right. You need to remember that now you're violating your neighbor's right. So that's what it means. Guys, it's, oh, this is the last one. Reconciliation. We aspire to a future where our country and its people will be characterized by a sense of unity and peaceful coexistence. Unity in diversity, healing from a strife and injustice of the past. So South Africans are still healing from apartheid. So now they're just trying to make sure that there's reconciliation because there's still a gap between white people and black people. So that's what it means now, that there has to be reconciliation between these people. Yeah, that's about it. Guys, you will get this on your PDF in the LMS system. You can go through it and all that, okay? And you are also going to get a formative assessment by next week. It will be uploaded.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye,
ma'am.
ma'am.
I mean,
I
bye,
wonder what
ma'am.
life would be if
Bye,
we
ma'am.
life